Most people living in privileged communities feel isolated from the serious environmental issues we face. So how do we motivate people of faith from all our communities to work towards environmental justice? To talk about this issue from the perspective of youth, let's welcome Reverend Dr. Terry Gallagher, Chair of the Environmental Task Force for the Illinois Conference of the United Church of Christ. We also welcome Joe Keys, a senior at Downers Grove North High School, and we welcome Tom Day, a junior at Westmont High School. Joe and Tom are both members of First Congregational United Church of Christ in Downers Grove. What is environmental justice?
Environmental justice is really that issue of justice where the people who are suffering the most from a particular pollution effect had the least to do with it. Right? And typically, historically, it's been localized. And so the people who are living next to smokestacks typically didn't contribute to the smokestack, but they're suffering the pollution. The people on the south side that had to live next to the pet coke piles from the Whitney refinery, that's environmental pollution. What has changed now in environmental justice is now it's a global issue. Right? Now it's no longer simply who's living next door, but because our pollution has increased sixfold in my lifetime and threatening the very way of life of the future, environmental justice is for those in the third world countries right now and for future generations who are going to suffer the effects of this dirty habit we have of burning oil and coal and gas, throwing it up in the air and pretending it doesn't hurt anyone. When we know, in fact, 6 to 8 million people a year are dying right now from air pollution. Right? So it's a silly story we tell ourselves that it doesn't work, that we can pollute and it doesn't hurt anybody. What's hardest to put a grasp on it is what are we doing for our youth? What's going to happen to the people who are inheriting this world that we're consuming? And it's easy to try and postpone looking at that. It's easy to say that's tomorrow's problem, right? And so we shield our eyes. And so what the question is really is, what does it take to awaken us as a society that we have a responsibility, just like the gospel calls us to, just as God has often used prophets to proclaim, to awaken people of faith. What you're doing, the path that you're on is harmful. There's another way. That's environmental justice, to awaken us that there's another way.
And what does it mean to live sustainably? How can we do better?
Right now, we're consuming at a level that would take 1.5 Earths to sustain. Scientists measure it every year, and what's the point we pass what the Earth could replenish in 1 year, and every year is a shorter date. And so this year was August 8th, right? So we're consuming what would now take 1.5 Earths to sustain. The problem is we only got 1 Earth. Now that's not bad enough. But if everybody consumed what we in Chicago consume at, or in America at, we would need 4 Earths. We consume more than what 4 Earths could sustain. So a way to a sustainable life is a way that turns away from consuming the earth and turns us to caring for the creation. Right? And that means changing our economy, which is now based on burning fossil fuels, to no longer pretending that we can throw this stuff up in the air and not hurt it. It means not destroying the earth with chemicals so that we can factory farm. It means respecting the ability of the earth to replenish itself and living in cooperation with that rather than destroying it.
Joe and Tom, how do you practice sustainability and environmental justice in your own home, school, or in the community?
Well, at my school, for starters, we have a school garden, and it's really focused on bringing food closer to the community rather than wasting energy on shipping it in from long distances away. And also, my school is starting to implement a new bee program, which will help fertilize plants and fruits faster than they normally would.
Yeah, in my school, we also have a community garden, which I've worked on a few times with my football team. We go down there and help cultivate it and take care of it. And then also, I believe that the start of environmental justice begins in the home. It begins with the everyday lifestyles you take every day, and that's what my mom and my family has taught me ever since I was a little kid. and that it should be taught to every single family, like using less water, using only what you need every day. Maybe starting a garden in the back of your house like we have. We grow strawberries, we grow raspberries, other different types of plants in order to make it easier for us to get the food so it doesn't have to be transported and more gas and more fuels used on the environment.
Another thing that we do at my house is compost, which is really good for gardening all over because it puts nutrients that were in food scraps back into the soil so it can be reused again. And also recycling obviously plays a major part in my household and in my school.
Living in the suburbs, I wonder, are you able to change your transportation choices to be more sustainable? Is that something that you have control over or are able to do?
If I ever have an opportunity, I'll bike to school rather than take a car because obviously it's better for the environment.
Yeah, whenever I have the opportunity, I carpool with several of my friends that live in my area because we live about like 2 or 3 miles away from our school, so we could bike, but it'd be kind of far to get there and back, especially after football practice every day. But so in order to take less effect on the environment, we carpool, sometimes getting 3 or 4 people in one car and driving them different places instead of taking 4 separate cars every day. It'll help. It's small. It seems small for each of us to be doing that, but if like the whole school does that, and then like it's decreased by about 2/3 of what it actually is, it's actually a lot more of an impact than what it could be just everybody driving every day.
One of the simplest things we can do, and we can do it right now, we can go online and do it, and that's to switch our electrical suppliers. We don't switch the ComEd who actually delivers electricity, but we switch who they buy the electricity from. And so we have the ability to switch to totally renewable energy right now. You go online and you can switch. You can look at the list that ComEd has of the companies that they deal with and switch to one that's totally renewable energy based. Now, there's a little cost difference. It's about the cost of a pizza in a month, And so you got to weigh that. I mean, what's the future of your generation worth? Is it worth a pizza? And I think it is. So we could do that right now. Everybody could do that right now. You can go online and tell the coal plants, I don't want your dirty power. Tell the gas plants, I don't want your dirty power. And go to wind power or go to solar power or go to renewable energy. We can do that. And there's no sweat. It's the cost of a pizza. Right? And if we do that, and we do that big enough and large enough, then we start a movement. And there's a power in a movement. There's a power when people come together and proclaim there's another way to live. A couple of years ago, I was grateful to be part of a small demonstration in New York City. There were 400,000 of us that showed up to march on that Sunday to proclaim that climate change is real, it's human caused, and we have to do something about it now. Last December, I was in Paris for the climate talks, and 195 nations from around the earth agreed climate change is real. It's human cause, and the urgency is desperate that we do something about it now. 195 nations. It's called the Paris Climate Agreement. Right now it's being ratified. 66 nations have gone the next step to ratify. And the U.S., fortunately, is one of those that has ratified that agreement. So there's hope. There's things we can do.
And I know you're both involved in your church. Can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like, what your church is doing to get involved in environmental justice?
We've gone on a lot of mission trips through our church, and there have been a lot of projects that have been like we've been helping people in different places. And one of them was we were helping a community garden in New York for like underprivileged people, and it also helped the environment because they were growing everything right there in this pretty nice garden, and it took away fuel costs of transportation, and it took away this price of packaging and all these other things.
Thank you, Terry, Joe, and Tom for being here today and sharing more about how you're personally trying to be more sustainable in your own lives and how you work towards environmental justice through your church. I'm Liz Dunn for Different Drummers and the Greater Chicago Broadcast Ministries. Keep the faith.